Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So we're doing our regular roundup of what happened last month in the world of blockchain games. So you can see this graph. Actually, I'm looking at June, start of June to October 2020, and I've basically pulled the data for the top 5 games and also another game that we'll just briefly look at because it's interesting. As ever, the data is from DappRadar, and what we're looking at in this graph is every one of these dots is a day, and the vertical scale is daily active unique wallets. So that's a measure of the just daily activity. So we can't say these are individual players. Players might use multiple wallets for various reasons, but that's what we measure on the blockchain, unique wallets. So some pretty broad trends that we can see have developed over the last few months. At the top of the screen here we have Splinterland. So Splinterland continues to be the most popular blockchain game by quite a measure. It's dropped off a little bit in end of September, early October. It's kind of picked up towards the end of October, kind of back to where it was, around 6,000 daily active unique wallets. We've had this drop. There's been some changes to the way that the 2-week tournaments work, which would have which we expected to kind of reduce the daily activity. There's been some gating in terms of this new power mechanic that gates how far you can get in the competitions, but it seems like that's kind of been picked up again. So not quite at the highs we have here in August, but kind of by far and away, I say the most popular blockchain game. Another continuing trend we have here is in green. We have Crypto Dynasty. So we're measuring the game running across 2 blockchains here. So it runs mainly on the EOS blockchain. Most of this number is EOS. There's a little bit, tiny little bit of people playing it on Ethereum, but like a handful really. So we see here in June it was around 4,500 daily active unique wallets, and we've seen this very steady decline. Looks like it's kind of plateauing out now, but under 2,000, so it's lost half its audience. This is something that tends to happen with EOS games. They don't have a very good NFT standard, so the economy tends to revolve around tokens, and the token price seems to kind of fall away over time. People gain more of the token. There's a lot of bots potentially mining it, and it's kind of hard to keep the value of the token up, and then the economy kind of suffers from that. So I think that's mainly what's happening with Crypto Dynasty. In third place now at the moment, although being challenged, we have Prospectors in yellow. Again, Prospectors, there's two versions of the game. So one runs on the EOS blockchain, one runs on the Wax blockchain, which is a version of the EOS blockchain, but 2 separate player bases potentially at least. You can see very steady around 3,000 daily active unique wallets. Looks a little bit suspicious now, to me at least. Maybe I'm more skeptical than other people, but we see quite a lot of volatility in these daily figures over time. Things go up and down. With Prospectors, it just seems rather odd that it's stuck on 3,000. So I'm not saying that's all bots, but I think a certain percentage of this will be people running bots on this game. Because I just can't see how something would be this steady, but I have to probably do a bit more research to see if I can. I don't have any evidence for that at all, apart from the fact it just looks that's the case, and we know certainly with EOS that there are a lot of bots running on it on EOS games in general, or on EOS dApps in general. Okay, something a bit more interesting here. We have in blue we have Upland. So Upland is a mobile game running on the EOS blockchain as well. It is a kind of Monopoly style game that launched with in the city of San Francisco. So it's not location based in that sense. You have to be in San Francisco, but the first version of the game, or the first part of the game, was mapping out San Francisco, and you could buy properties in San Francisco and kind of build sets, and people, if they went to your kind of property, you paid you rent and that sort of thing. That's the way the game works. What we've seen recently in October is they've opened up Manhattan as a second location. So that seems to have created this kind of uptick. So we're up from about, or it is up from about 2,000 daily active unique wallets, sometimes hitting 3,000. So still, in all these cases, pretty small numbers in the big scheme of things. But that's a 50% increase, and it's starting to do a bit more marketing. So We'll see how that kind of pans out, but that's a game that has seen a pretty steady increase in numbers through 2020, whereas Crypto Dynasty has seen a pretty steady decline, at least for this period, June to October. Okay, the other kind of big game in terms of growth in the last few months is Axie Infinity, which we have covered in previous months, but well worth looking at. We'll look at that in a bit more detail later on. But we can see here it's running on the Ethereum blockchain, so Ethereum games have not done well recently because of the gas prices, high gas prices on Ethereum because of DeFi. That's gone away now, pretty much. But Axie Infinity has its own dynamic. I'm not going to talk too much about this now because we'll look at it in more detail. But we can see here there's a peak in July over 1,000, goes back down again. Then we peak over 1,000 again in mid-September, and now we see this kind of strong curve, and now the game is regularly doing well over 1,000 daily active unique wallets. Some days up here over 2,000, so some big spikes going on. So that's a game definitely on the rise. And last month we saw the release of Lightbringer, which is a blockchain game running on the Litecoin blockchain, a little bit different to these other games, which tend to be a bit more kind of browser based or kind of mobile based. Lightbringer is a PC game running on Litecoin, so a bit more hardcore to that degree. Launched well, got up to about 1,000 daily active unique wallets. Now it's down to about kind of 400 or 500. So it's kind of dropped a little bit, but it seems to have sustaining an audience at least, just not as big as it once was. So that's the kind of the granular view, the daily granular view. We can have a look at this is what we call the trailing 30-day average. So this kind of averages everything out, so it's smoother. So you basically take each one of those days that we saw previously, one of those dots, and average it with the previous 29 days to create an average. And we see obviously it's the same kind of data. So we see Splinterland's kind of hitting its peak up here over 6,000 and then dropping off a little bit in October. We see Crypto Heroes hitting its peak about 4,500, then dropping away to under 2,000. We see Prospectors being very steady around 3,000. It just makes it easier to see what's going on really. Upland, we can see this kind of growth cycle from under 1,000 up to we're at 2,500. We actually should point out the date scale here. This goes back to January, so we're seeing this is the full year. So we're seeing the full year data. So we can see actually Splinterland started about 4,000 and is now up to about 6,000. So we can see that kind of that longer term trend. Something else we didn't look at in the first graph is My Crypto Heroes. So this is this pink line, fuchsia line. So it started the year with this average of about 3,500. Was kind of going downwards, but then was hit by this big gas price problem on Ethereum, which basically took its audience down to pretty much zero, really. So it's picked up a little bit now since the gas price has dropped off. About 500 people a day playing My Crypto Heroes now, at least on chain. So you can play the game off. You can play the game off chain without using blockchain, but obviously we're just measuring on chain activity here. So how much this will pick up again? I doubt it will get back up to 3,000, but obviously it kind of could do. But we'll kind of keep tracking that. And then in red we see Axie Infinity. So not much going on really, a few hundred. And then we see this kind of this sudden rise to over 1,000. So let's have a look in a bit more detail at Axie Infinity. And right, so this graph here. So this is daily activity across Axie Infinity and the Axie marketplace. So in the previous graph, what we were looking at was combined activity across Axie Infinity the game and Axie Infinity the marketplace. So Axie Infinity the game, the on-chain bit of it is people doing these battles. They're taking their axes, 3 axes in a team, and you're battling other people. And if you win, you get the small love potion that you need to breed axes. All that's the on-chain bit of Axie Infinity. That's the bit that's on the blockchain. There is also the marketplace. So obviously you can buy and sell axes on other marketplaces like OpenSea, but there is an inbuilt marketplace which most of the activity on Axie Infinity happens on the kind of integrated marketplace within the kind of user interface within the browser. So what we have here, this is going back again to January 2020. So every red line here, every red bar is the activity number of daily active unique wallets interacting with the marketplace. So basically this is traders. This is people either setting up auctions or buying axes that are set up at a price. So if you want to sell an axe, you set it up, whatever price you think you can sell it at, and then people come in and buy it or don't buy it, as the case may be. So we have these red lines going up like that. We also have, I've done this in a sorry, red bars, the marketplace, and the number of people playing doing the battling game, basically to earn the small off potion. We can see here in the blue line. So there's always more people playing the game than are involved in the marketplace. We see this big spike here in July. This happens when the price of the small off potion, this kind of utility token in the game, massively spiked, went up like a few thousand%, because it's all kind of tied into the DeFi speculative bubble. People wanted to make the price of this thing go up, so it went up a lot. It came back down again, and it's gone through various. So this the small off potion has gone through various kind of spikes, and that has, in some degree, drove activity in kind of July, August. We can see here, that this also, as the activity in the game went up, the activity in the marketplace also went up, but the activity was mainly happening on Axie Infinity. This is when people are coming in, playing the game, and kind of effectively kind of yield farming, getting the small off potion, then selling it off to people, and that obviously then impacted the price of small off potion. What's happened really in September and October has been a change in that. So we still have very high levels of activity, but we can see here now that while there are these big peaks in Axie activity, there's also these big peaks reflected really in these big marketplace peaks as well. So we see here a lot of activity going on with people buying and selling axes, breeding axes. That's all kind of well, not breeding axes, sorry, buying and selling axes in the marketplace. And we've seen this with the price of axes going through the roof. So at the end of September, we had a company spending $160,000 buying 5 axes, and then more recently we've seen an individual wallet spending $80,000 each for 2 axes. So we've seen a lot of activity around the pricing of these valuable NFTs, and that's driven marketplace activity. And in grey, that's the combined total of the blue line and the red bar. So I thought that was kind of a better way of kind of showing what's going on, because this is split in different ways. Slightly different activities here. So the marketplace is more speculative, people buying and selling valuable assets in the hope of making money, whereas the blue line is people actually playing the game. Obviously maybe people may be doing both, but probably also 2 separate groups as well. And we can see here, I mean, the grey line does show from really the end of September. We see this very strong growth period, and we have these days here where Axie Infinity is above 2,000 daily active unique wallets, which is a record for the game. But generally it is now above, it is sustaining above 1,000. So that's good for Axie. Let's have a look at value. So in this graph here, I've combined all the activity. So most of the activity here is the marketplace. So this is the amount of trading going on, but also the amount of the value of the going on in the game in terms of the small off potion. The thing to note here is this graph is in dollars, but this is a logarithmic graph. So as you move up equal distances up, you're actually going up. You're not going from 100 to 200. You're going up from 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to 1,000,000. So this kind of truncates the vertical scale. So it doesn't look like in some ways it doesn't look so impressive as it is, but I needed to do this because I wanted to show the accumulated value as well as the daily value. So we start the year and there is about $1,000 a day of value going through Axie Infinity. Some spikes up. This here we have like one single day where it's over 10,000, but here's where we have the small off potion price goes up, and then we have a couple of days of over 10,000, and we can see here that every day is above 1,000 now, whereas in previous days here we were probably on a few hundred. And then we see the next boom happening, which is really when the first sale of these $160,000 worth of Axies being sold, and suddenly we've moved from $1,000 a day. It's been creeping up, but then we've suddenly flipped. We've gone to $10,000 a day. So from here to here, it's a 10-fold increase. And then even in these periods of time, because there's so much activity going on at these high levels, we have these days of over $100,000 worth of trading. So this is, in this case, this is people buying these very expensive axes, but obviously it could be people buying and selling, depending on how the transaction is happening. And then we have another day here. This is where these two axes were sold for $160,000 around roughly that price anyway. We see that spiking to that level. Not had a day of $1 million yet. We wait to see what that happens, but you can kind of see, you can kind of get the trend. This is going up pretty substantially, and this red line is the accumulated value. So we start the year at under 10,000, and every day we're adding that day's trading. So we can see we hit $100,000 worth of trading in March, and then we have this big spike here that drives this spike here. So effectively, this little increase here is this big line here, but just further on a logarithmic scale. And then we can see that this big trading, this trading period here at the end of September, takes the trading of axes over into $1 million, and now we're about $3 million worth of trading value this year. So that gives some idea of kind of how quickly this kind of, axes has always been going up. I mean, accumulated value always goes up, obviously, but we're starting to see these very big increases going on. And then this is just final graph, just to kind of try and break out what's going on. In kind of split, a percentage split. So you can see always basically 50% of the activity in terms of daily active wallets is in playing the game. So the core audience is people playing the game. But you can see on certain days 50% is also 50% is also in the marketplace. So if we look from this period here, basically this period here is where we see the rise of activity of people playing Axie Infinity, because the Small Life Potion token has gone up a lot in price. So obviously the price of the Small Life Potion goes up, that drives people to go and play Axie Infinity and earn Small Life Potion. So we see on these days, well over 75% of the activity on that day is people playing, and that obviously compresses. It doesn't obviously compress, but the marketplace activity isn't increased by people earning Small Life Potion necessarily. So there is volatility there, it goes up and down, but basically we have a kind of a roughly a kind of an average of about 60, maybe 60% of the activity is people playing. We have this period here where it goes up higher, some days over 70, some days over 80%, and then as the price of Axes NFTs goes up in the marketplace, then we see the activity around marketplaces kind of increasing. And kind of effectively meeting the same level as it was at the start of the year, even though the values have increased a lot more. So I think that kind of showed to me, at least, maybe it's not as clear as it could be, but this kind of bulge here shows what happens when the Small Life Potion price went up, and then this area here, this bigger red area, shows what happens when the NFT price then started going up. So that is it for October. So every month we have a good go through what's going on in the world of blockchain games and look at the data and try to see what's going on, and hopefully that's useful. I find it very useful personally, so hopefully you do as well. Hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please subscribe to the channel. But thanks for watching, and see you again soon.